What's going on, everybody? So I've been on the keto diet for about 2 months now. And so I thought now would be the perfect time to come back around and give you guys an update on how I did on my second month on the keto diet. So right out of the gates, I'll just start with the numbers. Before I started the keto diet, I had ballooned to a high weight of 393.8 pounds. Now, I lost about 18 pounds pretty quickly in my first month on the diet. Now, at the end of month 2, I'm happy to say that I've lost another 10 pounds for a total combined loss of 28 pounds in 2 months. Now, looking back on the last 60 days, those numbers sound great, but believe me, those pounds were hard fought, and I learned a lot of things about myself and about the keto diet along the way. So the first thing I learned is that weight loss on keto is not as linear as it is on other diet methods. While those first 18 pounds just seemed to melt away, the next 10 pounds came in fits and starts. I stalled multiple times within the second month. And after doing some research, I think there are a couple of reasons for this. The first thing is something that some keto dieters are calling post-induction stall syndrome. And basically what this is as your body's in the process of getting fat adapted, it stalls from a weight loss perspective. And this was really unnerving for me psychologically. I found myself comparing my progress to previous times that I had attempted to lose weight. And on a week-over-week basis, there were times where I was lagging behind significantly. Now, zooming out over the last 2 months, I'm pretty much on par for matching the speed with which I lost weight the last time around, but I gotta tell you that in the moment, it totally did not feel like it. So the thing I learned about post-induction stall syndrome is that your body is in the process of healing itself. The process of healing from years of insulin resistance is not something that's going to happen overnight. So in order to wrap my brain around what was happening, I really had to dig into the science and convince the rational side of my brain that what I was doing was worth it when it wasn't reflecting on the scale. I would have weeks where I would totally nail my calorie deficits and nail my macros and still wouldn't post any significant loss for the week. And there were days where I did everything right and I posted a gain the following day. But I just had to keep grounding myself on the fact that my blood pressure was lower, my resting heart rate was moving in the right direction, my fasting blood glucose was within normal levels, my liver enzyme had returned to normal. All of my biomarkers were really a comfort for me. And so if you're looking to do the keto diet, I would totally recommend doing a full blood panel before you start so that you can compare your progress even though you're not seeing any victory on the scale. Another thing that probably contributed to the fact that I didn't lose weight as fast as I wanted to was the fact that I got a gout attack again in the second month. Now, I knew this was a possibility. While you're in the fat adaptation phase, the probability of gout attacks increases. And that being said, the gout attacks that I experienced were pale in comparison to the gout attacks that I used to experience. So they were definitely less in terms of severity and duration. But that being said, I had some allopurinol that was prescribed to me by the doctor to manage the gout, and I took it. And I totally gained weight because of it. The reason that I know that is that I eat pretty much the same thing Monday through Friday while I'm at work. So I had one day where I had a 1,000 calorie deficit, I intermittent fasted, and I nailed my macros. And then the next day where I did exactly the same thing, but the only difference was I took some allopurinol that day. And in the first day, I lost a couple of pounds, but in the second day, I gained 3.5 pounds overnight. So needless to say, I discontinued the allopurinol. I just kind of toughed it out, and over time, my body totally healed itself. Another thing that I learned was I had more success with slightly more calories and slightly less carbs. So previously, I had been doing about 30 total carbs per day and less than 2,000 calories a day. But when I ratcheted my calorie intake up to about 2,300 calories a day and less than 20 total carbs per day, the weight started coming off again. This is something important to know about being on keto. Not everybody's keto is exactly the same. Everybody's body has different levels of insulin resistance, and so some people might be able to push it to 30 or 40 grams of carbs a day. But for me, I had to keep it under 20 in order to see the results that I wanted. Another thing that I learned this month was the importance of intermittent fasting. So I had toyed around with intermittent fasting at the beginning of the 2-month period, but it wasn't until I got really serious about doing a 16/8 intermittent fast that I really started to see the results that I wanted. So the way that worked for me is I basically just gave up eating breakfast during the week. I would have my first calories in at about 9:30 in the morning when I got to work, and I would make myself a bulletproof coffee. Then I'd eat the majority of the rest of my calories around lunchtime, and then I'd have a small meal, something like a handful of macadamia nuts, somewhere around 5 to 5:30 in the afternoon. And then that would be it for my calories for the day. And on the days that I was able to do that, I was almost guaranteed a weight loss for the next day. Now, I'm still figuring this out for over the weekend. Monica and I have date night on Friday, and so we end up having a later meal on that day. So what I've been doing the past couple of weeks is I'll just fast going into dinner and have dinner be my first meal of the day. If I get really hungry, I'll allow myself a bulletproof coffee or two before dinner, and that seems to hold me over pretty well. Now, to some, that might sound extreme, going the entire day without really eating any calories until dinner. But I gotta tell you, another thing that I learned about the ketogenic diet is that eating food that is that high in fat and proteins is just so much more satiating than eating meals that are primarily carbohydrates. I've definitely gone longer periods without eating more effortlessly than I ever have before. Speaking of date night, another thing that was really surprising to me was that I just don't have a desire to consume alcohol anymore. I don't really have a problem with having a drink every once in a while, but I used to literally look forward to having a drink at the end of every week. There are times that I would even say that I needed it to decompress from a stressful week at work. Now, work hasn't gotten any less stressful, but what I would say is I feel like this diet is helping me to manage that stress a little bit better. I definitely don't feel compelled to have a drink on Friday. In fact, I feel compelled not to. I'm just really enjoying the way that I feel and the clarity of thought that I have when I'm not drinking and on keto. Now, that being said, my parents are coming to town in a couple of weeks, and we've got a couple of holidays coming up, and I probably won't refrain from pouring myself a drink then, but it's definitely not as much of a treat as it used to be for me. Now, the last thing I learned is that because weight loss on keto is so nonlinear, you really can't approach it on a timeline like you can with the regular diet. I look back at some of my old videos where I was very goal-oriented and very specific about when I was going to be a certain weight, and you just can't approach the keto diet that way. This diet is primarily for healing, and weight loss just happens to be a really great side effect. I've been listening to a lot of people who have used the keto diet as a way to reverse diabetes, and they're just thrilled that they don't have to wake up every morning fearing that they're going to have their foot cut off. And so they eat intuitively. They don't necessarily calorie count. They just eat until they feel satiated, and they live that way for years, and in the process, the pounds melt off. I don't know if I'm going to be that laissez-faire about it. I'm definitely goal-oriented, and I definitely want to lose this weight as quickly as possible. But I do think I may consider not stepping on the scale every day, maybe not even stepping on the scale every week. Now that I've got 2 months of solid data and a lot more head knowledge, I feel way more comfortable trusting the process. And so I don't know if I'll do time-based check-ins in the future. I may just do milestone-based check-ins. So I'm almost at 30 pounds lost now. Maybe I'll check back in again at 50. We'll see how long that takes. I'm just gonna trust that I'll feed my body the right way, and my body will decide when is the right time to shed those pounds. In the meantime, I'm just gonna enjoy this new way of living with my family. I'm gonna learn how to cook new and delicious things. I'm gonna research the crap out of the science, and I'll share all of that with you guys.